Have you ever had overwhelming anxiety or possibly even a panic attack? Unfortunately, I recently did have a panic attack myself. So, trying to educate myself, educate other people to try and understand the common symptoms. Is it a heart attack? Is it a panic attack? And additionally, how do we manage this stuff going forward so it doesn't totally trash our lives and make all this other stuff that we love and want to do completely out of bounds? Enjoy the show. Financially free and enjoy more of what the world has to offer in this action one, because this is where most human beings screw the pooch. So a little one-person trampoline, very I screen shared it. Like, there's no excuse. Like, phone numbers are just out there. You just got to pick up the phone, smile, and dial. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of the Talk Terror Morning Show, where we go over tips, tricks, ideas, and exercises to help make you the absolute best entrepreneur you can be, not only for yourself, but for the people you love and care about most. So recently, you notice I didn't come on to the air. I didn't do a live show yesterday, and the evening before, I'm not sure. I guess I don't know by classical definitions, but it felt like I was having an extreme panic attack. I was laying, it was in the evening. I just got done eating dinner and stuff like that. And what had happened is, and this includes marijuana. So I smoked some weed, and then I went and I took my blood pressure. I don't know why I wanted to do that. I took my blood pressure, and it was really high. Like, it was in stage 2 hypertension. And that's I didn't know about the times that you measure and this and that. So I did this, and I saw these really high numbers, and I'm reading through my phone on like ways to bring down my blood pressure. And I've been lifting weights a lot lately, and I like hurt my neck and a long time ago. And I was like, oh, my neck kind of hurts. And I had all these symptoms, and I was just perpetuating it, how like the anxiety usually works, perpetuating. And then it just felt like, and then I got home, and it just felt like I was having chest pains and all this and that. And I started like freaking out. So I used these, after working with a lot of people with anxiety, having anxiety in the past. I used to get really bad anxiety when I was taking big exams in college and stuff like that. So having the right techniques, I was personally comfortable with not going to a medical doctor. I'm in really good shape. I don't have a family history of like cardiovascular disease. So I was really comfortable with not going to doctor, but that can be really hard to decide if you're trying to figure out if it's a heart attack or a panic attack. And of course, I wanted to start this video with the side of caution. If you're not really sure and you're uncomfortable, then seeing a medical professional is probably best. I know I just like to lay this out there because I've also seen people just bankrupt themselves going to the hospital, and it was just a minor panic attack, and they just were uncomfortable. They didn't really understand what was happening. And then now they owe like $40,000 that they just don't have. And now they can't start their businesses. Now they're too scared to go do other things and take risks. I want to come on here and talk about some common symptoms first. So say if you're about to have a panic attack, let's go ahead and share my screen. So these are the common symptoms. Again, talk to a medical professional. These are ones just based off of my own research and what I've been feeling. So you can have rapid heartbeat or palpitation. So it feels like your heart's really beating, shortness of breath, you can't breathe, chest pain or discomfort. I was mainly having a lot of the chest pain and some trembling and shaking. I wasn't sweating excessively, but I wasn't feeling dizzy or lightheaded, or I was about to faint. I wasn't feeling very nauseous. Chills or hot flashes, numbness or tingling sensations. So to my understanding, if you feel all of these, or I was feeling this, a sense of impending doom, or just a fear of losing control, intense fear. When we think of anxiety and we think of panic attacks, it is like this intense fear of something. So here's just some common symptoms of a panic attack that I just want to put on here for reference. So, how can we manage a panic attack? So, we recognize that anxiety comes up, and not just a panic attack, but you're starting to feel some anxiety. Yesterday, I was trying to sit down yesterday morning. I was trying to sit down and do this morning show, and I just couldn't. I just like my hands started to like tingle, and I was just feeling so overwhelmed. I felt like I'm a failure and I'm not good at this, and all of these terrible things that are just obviously not true. What we're doing here is great. We're trying to help people and all this and that. And I think this I wanted to I'm excited to do this episode because one, before I started recording this morning, I was feeling some anxiety. I was like, "Oh god." But I'm a big believer in leaning into the anxieties, leaning into the fears, and kind of seeing and uncovering. And if we use these techniques on how to manage, I think we can overcome a lot of anxiety. We can overcome and like reduce the frequency of these panic attacks. But again, if you have a heart history, if you have high blood pressure, if you have any of these markers and you're not continuously making sure and checking up on them, then it's probably smart to err on the safe of on the caution side of things and go get medical help and support. But first, the first thing we want to do is how we're to manage a panic attack or overwhelming anxiety is to recognize and accept the anxiety, that this is within us. This is part of being alive. Having immense fear and having stress is a part of being a human being. And when this stuff comes up, we need to recognize it and we need to name it. I name this pain in my chest. I recognize that this is anxiety. I'm totally fine. I'm okay. This is it is a temporary feeling. The recognition, I believe that the perpetuation of the pain, a big part of it for me comes from whenever I'm feeling anxiety, is just thinking that, this is just my life and this is what I feel. And I like lose reality and I forget that it's just a temporary pain and I need to just continue to focus on my breathing. So the next tip when it comes to our managing for a panic attack or anxiety would be to focus on breathing. And specifically, we want to engage the diaphragm and push up the lungs and also put a little extra pressure on the heart so there's not so much space for it. So think longer exhales, shorter inhales. So there's a couple breathing exercises I'll kind of go over real quick here. One is the physiological sigh. This is from Dr. Andrew Huberman that I was learning from. So you're just kind of breathing in twice. So you do 2 inhales, the first nice long inhale, and the second one just a little choppy that you can still get in there, and then a really long exhale. Long exhale to where you're pushing completely all of the air out of your lungs. All of the air out of your lungs to where you feel your diaphragm. You feel your diaphragm start to engage. So again, we'll go ahead and we'll take a breath in. Another choppy one, and then a full exhale. And we'll have to do this breathing for several minutes. And this is another sign of when you would know whether it's a heart attack or a panic attack. If it is not going away from your breathing exercises, from seriously helping with this is probably when it'd be useful to get medical attention. Because after several minutes of my really intense like chest feeling and doing the breathing exercises, I prefer to do my breathing when I'm laying on my back on the ground. And we'll talk about a few more things. So laying on my back, I'm doing my breathing, and I'm the first physiological sigh. So 2 breaths in and through the nose, and then a really long exhale out of the mouth. The next one that you could do is a longer form of breathing is 7-11. So the numbers don't really matter versus just we want to have a longer exhale than an inhale, trying to get carbon dioxide out, trying to balance our oxygen levels. So longer exhale compared to the inhale. So 7-11 is nice because it's just the numbers are just trying to force you to have a really deep, long exhale and a nice like continuous flow of oxygen in. So 7 in, long exhale. And I know a lot of us aren't maybe fans of breathing exercises. I've fallen in love with them. It's pretty much vapped my anxiety. It's really helped me focus, concentration, decreasing stress and anxiety while improving concentration and focus all day long. And so that's why focusing on your breathing came in as your second tip. Next is trying grounding techniques. So I actually got this when I was getting therapy, and I was getting therapy on some stuff that happened with my family in the past. This and that is causing a lot of anxiety in me, and just a whole bunch of we all got our issues, right? And one of these grounding techniques I really liked, and it was so you would get in a nice comfortable position, and when you start to feel the anxiety come in, you're doing your breathing exercises, and I want you to make sure both of your feet are planted comfortably onto the ground. Like we're trying to ground you. So much of anxiety is when we get off into this, like it's not even reality. It's just perpetuation of feeling lost and out of control. So we're really trying to ground ourselves. And I want you to look and concentrate. I was in a room and he was like, look at the doorknob. Like literally look, it sounds so weird, but it really does help. You just look at a specific physical feature. You're trying to engage externally and not be so locked in internally. Because when we're too locked in internally, we can figure any type of movement or sensation can be perceived in the body as like terrible, bad, painful. And we want to be really careful of this because the mind is a crazy, powerful place. So we're trying to focus on, say, something external, something physical. It could be a doorknob. It could be a light switch. It could be something that you can really see, maybe the details in it. Maybe you're trying to see the color patterns or whatever. We're trying to extroversion. We're trying to really focus on something that is external and outside of ourselves. I like to have both of my feet planted on the ground, my back in a nice healthy position, my shoulders back a little bit, my chest is nice up and out, and I'm in a nice breathing. So longer exhale than my inhale. So, and I'm really focusing on something externally, whether it's a doorknob, whether it's something, a painting on the wall or something like that. Something small and specific like a doorknob works really well for me for some reason. So that's why I have that example on here. So that'd be something like a grounding technique. We're trying to ground ourselves back into the physical environment that we're in. So grounding techniques have really helped me. Next up would be finding a safe and quiet place. Additionally, on top of this, I would add for how to manage a panic attack or overwhelming anxiety would also, I do well with the dark room. So if I'm feeling anxiety or I'm feeling all riled up, way too much stress and attention going on, I like to go into a dark room. I like to lay on my back and I like to do my breathing in a dark room, preferably here in our comfortable home in my bedroom, and just focusing on the breathing, getting it out, doing it over and over again for several minutes. It's going to take a couple minutes for this stuff to like really like rebalance ourselves and to ground ourselves back into full reality, our physical space, right? So find a nice quiet space. A lot of people get tripped up or they're weirded out by just having people around, especially if you're doing something like a breathing exercise, you're closing your eyes, you're doing that. Probably people think you're freaking out. They look at you weird, and then you're like, oh God, I'm a weirdo. And then you just make it worse. Anxiety perpetuates. Finding a quiet and a safe, dark room has what I've always really done well with. Next up we have here is, well, we wanted to do this one first. Actually, I had those backwards. So after you find a safe and a quiet place, I would say reach out to support. Just telling friends and family about this is really helpful. So I was telling my friends about it. I was telling some of my family members about it. And that gave me the confidence to come up on here today and to be talking about it, to be a little more vulnerable. Because part of me, I had some anxiety of coming back and doing another morning show because it's like, oh, well, why would I listen to that guy? He's having anxiety. He's having panic attacks. Why would I listen to that guy? And then I really thought about it. I was like, well, that's just judgment. That's not true. And all what this is actually a blessing in the fact that I can better relate to people who are struggling with the same things I do. I know that it might not be you specifically, but I know that either you or someone you know struggles with this stuff. And if we can go over strategies, tips, and tricks, and we can share it with other people, I think it can really help us overcome this stuff. We're just so overstimulated, so stressed out that of course, it's inevitable. And talking about this with your friends, it's okay. Like, it's not lame anymore to talk about anxiety, to talk about panic attacks. Like, if you told me about it, I wouldn't think like, oh yeah, lame, you're a sissy or whatever. You know what I mean? This stuff terrorizes people and it's very real. So maybe you just reach out to support, you reach out to a friend, you reach out to a family member, and you just tell them what's going on. You tell them that you're working on it. So you got a layer of accountability. So if you have existing like heart issues, if your family has cardiovascular disease, or if like you're just really, it's out of control and you've tried some remedies at home and it's just not working, it's worth the investment to get some professional help. You might have to pay a therapist, you might have to go pay a doctor, you might have to take money, but like, what's money even worth if you can't have your sanity in your space? Because a couple of my clients, one of my clients, they went into a movie theater and they had a panic attack. Very unfortunate. And now, well, it was a couple years now that they're able to go back into it because we've been doing some small exposure stuff, which is fantastic. I'm excited about it. But for a long time, they couldn't even go into a movie theater. They just like completely cut it out of their lives. And say for this example, if I were to let this anxiety or let this panic attack overrule me so bad that I didn't do my morning show, I didn't work on like my dreams and my passion, like how much is that affecting your life? So ask yourself, if you're really not doing things that are fundamental for you to like live the life that you know you want to live, you know you deserve to live, then seeking professional help immediately is the way to go, because it's 100% worth it. Because I mean, what is the alternative, right? You just cut out what you love most out of your life. That sounds like a recipe for disaster and misery. The last but not least one that we had on here, so how to manage a panic attack and an overwhelming anxiety, is practice self-care. Practice self-care. Alcohol, marijuana, nicotine. If you're having trouble with anxiety, take a break from that stuff. That stuff is so powerful. Or like sugary food, junk food, processed food. We can make a general list of things that are healthy and unhealthy. And if we can really avoid these things, I think it can really repress our anxiety. One of my clients, they had really bad anxiety. They're in medical school, and all we did was stop drinking alcohol, stop smoking pot, stopped ingesting nicotine, and they just went away. Like the anxiety attacks, he had a couple panic attacks, but very frequent anxiety. And we just got rid of those three things: the nicotine, he was smoking those vapes, smoking marijuana, and drinking alcohol every now and again. And we just got rid of that stuff for a couple weeks. And then the anxiety was like lifted and gone. We were doing breathing exercises. We were doing one-on-one coaching together. So there's a combination of stuff that's really helping with that. But I would say practicing self-care is probably the best thing that we could possibly do. Really analyze, what are the foods, what are the drinks that you are consuming? What are you literally putting into your body? If you can gauge what it is that you're putting into your body, we're going to have a really good idea of how we're going to feel, how we're going to function, how we're going to move. It's the gasoline in the car. So we really want to make sure. I used to do these Zyn pouches, little bits of nicotine, but because I measure my blood pressure frequently, and it was literally making my blood pressure go up. So I cut it out. I don't drink alcohol much at all. I'm going to Seattle for a weekend trip this weekend, so I'm probably going to have a beer, one, done. And then additionally, caffeine consumption. Having 1 cup of coffee instead of 4. There's a lot of things that we can do to lower anxiety. And if you don't struggle with anxiety, having 2, 3 cups of coffee in a day, it turns out caffeine's not that bad for you. But if you have anxiety that's like really ripping your life up, then we should probably take a break, go back to the natural stuff, drink more water, drink more healthy juice, fruits, vegetables, lean meats. Get back to the more natural stuff, get rid of the processed crap, get rid of the substances that are just riling us up and making us all anxious and crazy. Like I'm a big proponent for marijuana. I like marijuana a lot, but I can't deny that it makes me feel like some anxiousness, a little bit of chest pain, and makes me feel riled up. So I don't do it very often anymore. And that's okay. So the ways, the pros, the cons, keep going back and forth, trying to practice these self-care practices and see if they can really help you. So a quick little wrap around today. We're talking about, I had a panic attack, very unfortunate, totally sucked, but we're able to work through it, feel a lot better. As I'm even talking on camera right now, I went in the beginning, I kind of had a little bit of a chest pain. I was like, it's feeling kind of resistance toward wanting to talk about the topic because it's so recent. But even at the end of this episode, I feel a lot better. So I'm excited that we get to share this message, and hopefully this really can be helpful to you. We talked about some common symptoms, talked about whether it's a heart attack, panic attack, always err on the side of caution. If you're really, really concerned that you think it might be a heart attack, definitely go to the hospital. Additionally, we went over some tips and tricks on how to manage a panic attack or overwhelming anxiety. Recognize and accept it. Focus on your breathing, exhale longer than inhale, try grounding exercises, stare at the dang doorknob, get your feet on the ground, find a safe and quiet space, reach out for support, consider professional help, and self-care is number one that we should be looking at. So this was episode 372 of the Talk to Tanner Morning Show. Thanks so much, guys. I'm off for the weekend. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Friday. I love you all, and I'll be back here bright and early Monday morning with another episode of Talk to Tanner Morning Show, episode 373. Cheers, friends. Peace out. Hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you on the next one.